All right. Well, it says we are live. I'm here today with Eric. Actually, I'm not sure I know how to say your last name. Cochran.
Cochran. Yep.
Oh, I was right. So I'm here with Eric Cochran. Uh, as some of you might know, he is I guess they're calling you the Pinterest insider now, or James Damore too. I've heard some people call. But anyway, it's very strange because I seen this story break, and I thought it was interesting. I didn't dig too much into it. And then Eric messages me because we're actually friends already. Me and Eric used to do improv back in San Francisco. And I probably shared a stage with you for going on like a year tops, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just still in utter shock that you did what you did. But if you could just introduce yourself and kind of fill people in on what actually happened with you and Pinterest.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. So the big thing here was that Pinterest was doing a lot of censorship, like behind closed doors.
Eric, yeah. Your mic is very, it's jumping.
It's jumping.
You sound a little better now.
Okay. I just speak a little bit softer. I'm probably speaking too loudly.
Okay.
Actor voice and all that. Yeah, let me know if there's any problem anymore. So Pinterest is doing a lot of censorship, like in secret. And one of the biggest things they did was they had this secret porn block list. And so the idea here is that you can't make any posts on Pinterest with links that go to these quote unquote porn sites. And of course, there's thousands of them, if not hundreds of thousands. And a lot of them, of course, are porn sites. But then the thing is, they put on live action, one of the biggest pro-life social media outlets and organizations in America out there, and they put them on this porn block list. And that means that you can't post any live action content on Pinterest. They also had things like Zero Hedge and PJ Media and fairly right-leaning sites on there. And so you couldn't make posts like this. And also they had the what we call the sensitive terms list. These are things that get blocked from autocomplete recommendations, search, and home feed, so that it's hard to find posts like this. And then on there, they would have things like Christian Easter and Bible verses and like Ben Shapiro Muslim.
On the list of things to not link out to, they had Christian Easter.
Yeah, I know. That was one of those things, and so it seemed like kind of normal to me at first until I kind of kept digging further, and I was like, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Like Christian Easter? How is this a sensitive term? How is this offensive to people? And the thing is, you wouldn't see this around Quran passages. You wouldn't see this around Muslim wedding or Muslim holidays. You would just see Christian stuff. And
you know what happens if you offend the Muslims? Yeah,
that's very true. And also, kind of interestingly, on the sensitive terms list, you would see things that would protect Muslim things. It would have Muslim and then incendiary, very derogatory terms. But you wouldn't see on the sensitive terms list anything like protect Christians. It was those things were missing. And then so when we realized wow, they're banning live action. This is huge. I mean, it also they were calling Ben Shapiro white supremacist. There was a lot of censorship. This is all up on Project Veritas's report, projectveritas.com. But when we were seeing that they were banning live action, that was really the big thing, because they were getting into the pro-life, the abortion issue right now, which is huge. And so when they were initially contacted they were contacted this past Monday for just a comment on this. They actually removed live action from the porn domain block list, and I think they were hoping that this would blow over. And then the story came out, and then they freaked out. They doubled down. They added live action back onto the porn domain block list, and then they blocked live action's Pinterest account. And they said, you're banned for spreading misinformation and conspiracy theories and anti-vaccination conspiracy theories, which is is absolutely ridiculous. And if they're going to ban live action, I mean, this is a direct like assault on the pro-life movement, because live action is very mainstream. They're the top pro-life organization out there in America, and so what we're seeing here is like the doubling down on the censorship, like on religious, but especially on like pro-life content. And so like this was really, really troubling to me as both as a pro-life person and a pro-life activist, but especially just as somebody who like values transparency and free speech. And so what's interesting here is that they finally had to admit what they really believe about live action. They really had to admit that they think that pro-life content is conspiracy theories and misinformation. And so like, you know, at least we know where we stand. At least they had to respond and say this. And then really fast, and then like after this report came out on this past Tuesday, I don't know, I don't know what the how they found out that it was me or anything, but security came and found me Tuesday morning at my desk and escorted me out the building.
Yeah, what was that like? I mean, I heard you talk about it with some others, but one, do you have any kind of suspicions of how they might have found out it was you? And then two, if you could just describe kind of how that went. Was it a complete surprise? Was everyone looking at you with you know, that face on them?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story too. So as far as like how I think they got me, I really don't know. I mean, honestly, there could have been all sorts of like retroactive logging to see like, you know, what internal users looked at what documents and such. I honestly don't know. So for being a surprise, yeah, I'd say it was a surprise. But like, I was mentally prepared for it. Even on Monday, when I knew that like the request for comments was going to go out, I was like, I'm mentally prepared for whatever happens. You know, I don't think there's a very large possibility of anything happening, of them finding out it was me. But like, you know, it's a possibility. I want to be mentally prepared for it. You know, I'm all in on this thing. So whatever happens, like I've done the work. People are going to know, and that's what's important. And so on Monday, nothing happened. And then, so Tuesday morning, I get in for breakfast, 9:30. I always get in right before they stop serving breakfast. Have breakfast, and then we actually, the breakfast is served in a different building than our main engineering building. So I'm walking across the street to our engineering building where my desk is and everything. And I noticed my Pinterest Gmail account isn't syncing, and I'm like, okay, this might be the end of my work at Pinterest. And then I go in. My badge actually works fine. I badge into work, say hi to security, take the elevator up to my desk. Notice none of my internal accounts are syncing. I can't, you know, upload code or anything. And it was funny because like so I worked on the Android performance team, and so like I was I was like all in on like getting these performance optimizations in. So I was even working like with coworkers the night before on like these optimizations. And then one comes up to me and says like, oh, you know, Eric, I was going to message you about like, you know, what we were talking about. But I think your Slack isn't working. It says it's archived. And I was like, oh, I'll look into that. And I kind of just sit at my desk and I'm like, all right, somebody, you know, HR will come get me or something, you know, and like we'll talk or whatever. But then
So eerie.
yeah. So I'm just kind of like waiting here at, you know, at like 9:40 or whatever at my desk, just gonna see what happens if my manager comes talk to me or whatever. But nobody ends up. So security like comes up with, you know, like 3 security guards come up. And they're like, you, Eric? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, laptop and badge. And I was like, all right, here you go. And I'm like, have I done something wrong? And they're like, we're escorting me out of the building. And I was like, you know, have I done something wrong? What's going on? And they're like, we don't know. And, you know, they probably don't know. Somebody just told them to do it. And they're like, we don't know. And they escort me out the back stairs and then out of the building.
That's wild. So if you don't mind, because I know we had switched to your other microphone. If you can't fix that microphone, can you switch back? And then what we'll do is we'll use the software mute on the Google Hangout. So when the other person's talking, you can just mute it or something.
Oh, you mean the speakers?
Yeah, because it's getting for me at least, it's hard to hear you sometimes. There's a lot of odd
Um,
artifacts.
let me see if I can do this.
If you can go to settings and just change it to like whatever mic you had before, or is that possible? But I'll keep people entertained for a second. I don't hear you or anything. Are you trying to talk? All right, we might just have to deal with the audio problem. That's fine. Not a huge deal. I was just trying to see if we can improve things. But no, that is really eerie. Like I'll talk a little bit while you figure that out. I get why they didn't like tell you first and then disable your accounts because maybe you steal stuff or whatever. But I think it's a little strange that they sent security straight to you instead of have your manager, maybe even your manager with security. So was it just security? Was that what happened? See if your mic is working now.
Any better now?
Yeah. Did you hear my question?
Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
I don't know what's going on with YouTube. I literally started one before. There's no way to stop the broadcast, and it's just streaming live. And now audio issues. Uh-oh.
Okay, I think I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes. Yep. Okay.
All right.
Good now.
Back to our planned programming here. So I don't know if you heard my question. I was wondering, I was saying that I understood why maybe they, canceled your accounts before letting you know that they were letting you go. But I don't understand why they sent 3 security and like your manager or somebody that wasn't even involved in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the time to like check reactions on any of my immediate coworkers or my manager or anything. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of surprising. I was at least expecting to like, sit down with somebody from HR, like my manager or something. But yeah, I don't know. Also it wasn't too surprising. I mean, they probably, didn't know what I had anyway. It was kind of funny. Security was like, do we have all the Pinterest property? And I was like, yeah, my charger's right there on the desk. And they're like, can we check your backpack? And I'm like, no, you can't check my backpack.
Wow.
But yeah, they gotta take precautions. I mean, as a company.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so mad at the security people, but
Yeah,
it is interesting. So what was, can you even, we know that you like spoke to Project Veritas, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is all out from Project.
Like, how did you reach out to them? What did they ask for? What did you send to them? Can you even speak to that or?
I can say that, so back, I believe it was like early March, Project Veritas had a report from a Facebook insider who spoke about Facebook deboosting of some right-wing people like Steven Crowder and Mike Cernovich. And I was like, well, I've seen that there's been like a heavy ramp up of like these misinformation policies at Pinterest, and then I didn't really know how bad it was. And then like as I looked further, it was just worse and worse. And then I was like, okay, the public, like, this stuff's newsworthy and the public has a right to know. I mean, there's some stuff that's not normal. That's maybe normal in Silicon Valley, but is not normal to most people, unfortunately. And so then that's when I reached out to Project Veritas with the information that the public wanted to know.
Wow.
I encourage like all if anybody in your life has seen corruption, newsworthy wrongdoing, censorship in big tech and big media, projectveritas.com/brave, like real journalists are actually listening to these stories. You know, and the funny thing is, I only actually realized, like, consciously, like a week ago, that you'd think that, like, because, you know, if I hadn't done this, like, who would have? You know, there's like this like bystander effect of, like, you know, everybody's kind of afraid to say anything. And, like, was the Washington Post going to do investigative journalism and, like, go in and find out, like, who else was gonna find this stuff? And, like, if I had even, like, taken this story to a lot of outlets out there, like, if I had taken this story to, like, the San Francisco Chronicle, like, they probably would have turned me into Pinterest. They would have, like, ignored the story, and then they would have, like, gone to Pinterest and been like, "You have a guy trying to leak documents," you know? And
Did you
before
purposely put on a mafia voice because it's kind of like the mafia?
wait, what's that?
Your impression was very like
Oh.
like mafia, and I'm like,
It got-
there's a connection there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, there is like this whole, there's like this buddy system in the establishment where, like, you know, the people at the top of the big media companies want to stay friends with the people at the top of the big tech companies, and then, like, taking this to Project Veritas, uh, they listened, and then they ran the story, like, as, you know, just straight, like, here's what the public wants to know, you know, no more, no less. Uh and I think that's, like, really rare trait, unfortunately, in the current times, of, like, seeing actual journalism and actually just reporting what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, good on them, and good for you to actually do this, because I know you knew that your job would be at risk if you got caught,
Mhm.
and well, now you're unemployed, right? Or did you already start at the next place?
Just taking it day by day right now.
Okay, so you're in between things. So you know, I asked some friends if they had any kinds of questions, and I wrote like 3 down. So I'll go with those, and then also I want to, like, I don't have that many people watching live. It's like 5 people. Hopefully, after I fix whatever that problem was with the other video and I push this out, we can get more eyes on it. But so the questions I came with. So one, are there any policies that you've seen, other than the ones that, you know, got you in trouble, that you think could be used to ban conservatives on social media or Pinterest or anywhere?
Yeah, this is one of the things that really, like, sent red flags in my mind. Is we had this big push for, like, anti-vaccination content, which I'm all for. Like, you know, like, there's a lot of, like, really harmful stuff, really harmful misinformation out there about, like, anti-vaccination stuff, and conspiracy theories. But then I saw, like, Pinterest was, like, going to the Washington Post and, like, doing and getting a lot of praise for this anti-vaccination stuff. I'm like, all right. And then, like, I saw we were dedicating, like, whole teams to, like, this content safety, and I was like, okay, what's really going on here is that we're using, like, legitimate conspiracy theories and harmful content to then justify more censorship of everything else.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's
it's
a
all
wedge, right? That's how they wedge in there.
exactly, because you know, like, 99% of people are going to agree, okay, like, you know, you know, the misinformation there, totally agree, don't want that. But then they keep on edging until it's like, wait, that's actually stuff that's not misinformation. And
And it's confusing too, because if 99% of the people agree that, you know, the anti-vax thing, at least the way it's described or whatever, is bogus, then what does it matter if it's out there? So there's this kind of, like, I don't know, it's a very strange thing to me when anybody starts censoring bad information, especially if it's something that the majority of people, which I don't know if that, you know, you said that, I don't know if, like, what the statistics
yeah,
are,
I don't know what the statistics are.
but it's like, who cares? You know, like, I should be able to go out there and say that I can bench 200 pounds. I can't do that.
Mhm.
It's misinformation. I should be able to say whatever I want. And
Yeah.
it's kind of up to the people to decide. So I just feel like, and tell me what you think, like, does Pinterest and these other social media companies, do they feel like the general public is just stupid?
I think really they do. I mean, they won't say that publicly. I think but they feel like the general public was stupid enough to vote for Donald Trump. This is just the hive mind feeling of Silicon Valley is like, we can't believe that 2016 happened. We have to tell them what to think. Like, and the interesting thing here is that Pinterest, unlike a lot like Twitter, where like, you know, a lot of media people and people in cities use it, Pinterest's main user base in the United States is middle American moms. And that's what's kind of scary, especially about Pinterest. I mean, one, it's middle American moms, so it's like, unlike other tech companies, it's affecting like just regular Americans, not like city dwelling people like them. And the other thing is that Pinterest is really just the symbol. Pinterest is a microcosm of big tech's hive mind, where one tech company goes, they all go. And what's really scary is that we're going to see, and we actually already are seeing, all of big tech now use this as a citation for more censorship. They said, "Hey, Pinterest just labeled live action as misinformation. Let's all go do that." And we're already seeing YouTube has now unprecedentedly removed Project Veritas's original report on this. Has never happened in all of Project Veritas's history. Never has YouTube removed a video.
And what are they justifying that with? They're saying it's like it's revealing people's private information. Is that?
They said a privacy complaint where there was nothing in there that was. It was names and photos publicly available.
Yeah, and well, maybe I guess they're afraid people will get doxxed or whatever. But then I saw when Project Veritas re-uploaded the video, I don't know, did they purposely like no longer have you physically there? Because it was just like a picture of you with your voice.
Oh, so in the original report, because this is still where I was in the shadows on the original report, because I was still staying anonymous. So when Project Veritas did re-upload the video, with the censorship, removing everything they wanted YouTube to, or YouTube wanted them to remove, they uploaded like a still frame of me on top of the shadows.
Oh, wait, but that was your voice? Like did the original one have your voice, or did you have that like
the original one was like voice modulated? Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. Because I think in the re-upload they might have just used yours because you're that's interesting. I want to find the original.
The original you can find on projectveritas.com, and like I really encourage that, because that does not have any of the censorship, so it has the full video on projectveritas.com.
Okay, cool. I will check that out. Okay, so this one, I'm excited for this question because you know, I used to live in SF too. So what was it like day to day just working at Pinterest or living in San Francisco in general?
So the funny thing is, I took the job at Pinterest because I had friends who worked at Pinterest. I worked in the Android community. I was a speaker at tech conferences around the world. And so I had a lot of friends at Pinterest. And I was like, I'm going to go to Pinterest because, like, you know, I know like every big tech company is kind of bad, but like I'm not working at Facebook. You know, I won't feel bad about what I'm doing. I won't feel like I'm really going to do too much harm, I guess. And then I realized, like, no, it's really all of Silicon Valley thinks the same way. You know, it ended up to be just as bad then at Pinterest. The censorship got to them eventually. You know, the hive mind caught up, and in Silicon Valley, like, yeah, you're definitely expected to think one way, and you kind of shut up if you speak the other way. And I think a lot of it is just fear. I think because, you know, Google employs what, like 100,000 people, and trust me, it's not that there's zero pro-lifers. It's not that there's zero free speech people in Google, but there's just this intimidation. It's like they make you think that you're going to lose your social status. They make you think you're going to lose your following on Twitter. But can you take your Twitter following with you in 100 years? Like, eventually you're going to be ashes in a coffin. And is that what really matters? You know, so there's this intimidation isn't real, and it's really their only weapon in Silicon Valley, this culture of silence. And but like I encourage, like, really this is the watershed moment. This is where even people who are reporting on the Project Veritas report, even people who are reporting on YouTube censorship. Tim Pool got a video removed just for talking about this. Steven Crowder got a privacy violation just for talking to me and James O'Keefe at Project Veritas, just for interviewing us. And this is where we're seeing they're like all in on protection of the establishment. And so this is the watershed moment. Like, this is the time for insiders to come to Project Veritas and like talk to real journalists about this, because the censorship and like the normalization censorship and that type of culture in Silicon Valley is ramping up very heavily right now.
Yeah, and you said something earlier where it feels like in San Francisco they have a hard time believing that 2016 even happened.
Yeah,
and like I was there. I remember two things. One, the following day, and I don't think you were in this improv class because this was at a different place. I'm not gonna like name places, but I did go to improv, and we sat in a circle, and we were asked to just kind of talk about what our feelings were because of the election, and it kind of went around, and everybody was like angry or sad or like they were worried about the future because Donald Trump won the presidency, like every single person. But then it came to me, and I was just like, I can tell that people are sad, and that sucks. Like that was kind of my half-assed answer. But a mutual friend of ours, I'll tell you after, he just kind of looks both ways and he goes, I kind of like Donald Trump. And it was, nobody knew how to respond to that. Right.
Right.
And, just to even go a little further into describing what the culture is like in San Francisco, when I left San Francisco, I was just getting into Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, and you and I would debate all the time about like pro-life, mostly pro-life stuff. But I think there were a few other things too, like guns or whatever. And I remember telling people that although you were a conservative, it was easy to like you were able to talk about things, and that was good. And it's like that is a compliment, but it almost feels like a compliment that should never have to be given because it should almost be the default. But living in SF, it was one, I barely knew any conservatives. You were one of two, maybe three that I knew were conservative, and then the fact that I could talk more easily to you than my fellow liberal friends was kind of a red flag for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good point of like, there's this culture of just silence of like, we don't want to talk about things. Everything's behind closed doors. And that's really, it's a tactic of the establishment. It's a tactic of the status quo because they have to protect what they have. And so when more people are talking, that's always a threat to whatever the status quo happens to be. And right now, the status quo happens to be very powerful people in big tech and big media. And as for the 2016 election, I mean, I remember, I didn't really think things were so bad back then. Like, I didn't vote for Donald Trump at the time. Like, I didn't think he was like a good representation of my views. And, but then like the heavy censorship that happened after that, and just what we're seeing right now, where they think that everybody in middle America just made a huge mistake. They're so, I can't believe that people were so dumb they voted for this guy.
Well, they voted for literally Hitler, right?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and that's the kind of extreme rhetoric that they're coming up with, and I think Donald Trump actually has, as a president, like been a good representation. His policies, at least, not him personally, maybe, but his policies have been a good representation of my views in general. So I've been pleased with that. But as for like the censorship, yeah, I think we're seeing this because one, they don't want 2020 to happen. They're afraid of what's going to happen in 2020. They don't want to make the same mistake again. And then, well, but I think, what's that?
I said, well, they're making the same mistake already.
Possibly.
Like, in a lot of ways, I think their tight grip on whatever it is, it's not reality, is what gets people like Donald Trump in. We could get a kind of more moderate, run-of-the-mill politician, but the more they push like these identity politics and the censorship and the idea now like people are getting banned off Twitter because they said there's only two genders. I think people are like, no, I don't want that level of authoritarian.
See, I agree, but I think that's only true when there's actually transparency, when people actually know what's going to happen. Because, for example, with the stuff with live action, when you were trying to post live action links, you just get a weird error message and it'd be like, oh, sorry, can't upload this link at this time or something. And
wait,
and
so it would appear like maybe you had a network error or something, or like you just don't know?
It would just look like there was some bug or something. It would just look like some fluke. And then of course this was one of those moments where then I come forward and say, here's the back end stuff. This is the proof of this is not a fluke. This is why this actually happens. And so I think, yes, I think people will get fired up, but only if they know what's actually going on, because a lot of this stuff is just silent. If tech companies are able to silently censor things, then people don't even know what's happening, and then people don't get fired up. And I think that's when, unfortunately, these tech companies can be successful in their censorship efforts if there's no transparency. And again, that's why we need more people to speak up right now.
I have one more question, and then we'll go to the questions in the live chat. There's not.
Oh yeah, and then I want to say like one more thing is so one, I think they're ramping up for the 2020 election, and I think two, and even bigger, what they're really afraid of, the reason this is happening right now, the reason why Project Veritas's video got taken down and why YouTube is censoring so heavily right now and protecting their buddies in big tech is the abortion issue. I really believe that, because they know that Roe v. Wade is going to get overturned. They know that the battle is going to take to the states, and they're terrified, and they're going all in on protecting the abortion lobby and the abortion establishment. And I really think this is why this is like the watershed moment. This is what's really making them double down.
Yeah, that is probably true. So I don't even remember what my damn question was.
Oh.
No, it's not your fault, but I had it. So give me 2 seconds. If I can't think of it, I'll just skip to the other people's questions because they're probably better. Oh, I remember now. So did you ever go to anybody with your concerns at Pinterest first, or did you go directly to Project Veritas?
I'm gonna not comment for the protection of like everybody, of everybody involved, and everybody has contacted me and such.
Okay, fair enough. So we're gonna go to the questions in the chat, and I'm gonna scroll up a little bit so first I'll shout out in order as they come up. Like, thanks Serious Stuffer for coming in. Thank you, Casey. Let's see. So the question started about down. Thank you, Susan. I saw a question. Oh, who becomes the arbiter of truth in deciding what qualifies as misinformation? And that's the question, really.
That is a good question, because the funny thing here is you see like about a dozen people in San Francisco are like on the trust and safety team at Pinterest. So we're like, are those the people that are deciding what hundreds of millions of people who use Pinterest get to see? Is that really the culture? Like I've said, we know the culture in Silicon Valley. We know what they really think. And those are the people then who get to make policy decisions about what you get to see. Yeah.
By the way, if I don't see your question, just repeat it again, because it's hard to scroll up and down. So Greg Wolf, thanks for being here. He said, did you know that Reddit has censored the URL to the Veritas article? It's being blocked as spam.
Send me that link for sure. Pinterest Insider at protonmail.com for all media queries and anything like that. That is very interesting, because we're seeing a lot of crazy stuff. In fact, if you go onto YouTube, at least I checked this last night, and you search Project Veritas, you'll see the channel is the first result, but then you'll see no Project Veritas videos, at least for the first 8 search results. And then everything even there is like over a year old. So it seems that a lot of stuff's happening right now. So yeah, send me that link. That's interesting about Reddit. I'll look into that.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone, if you or Project Veritas, anybody is kind of creating like a map of the events, because if now Reddit is blocking, if Facebook might be blocking, I don't know. So it'd be cool to just see like all of the fallout in like a graph.
Oh yeah, good visualization.
Yeah. How do you think the idea of granting corporations the rights of citizens is being abused in big tech?
I'm not a lawyer, but I think really the biggest thing here is that we're seeing these companies who've advertised as platforms and who've said, yeah, come on, come to our sites, then silently censoring things is not it's just straight false advertising. I mean, telling live action like, yeah, you can be on here, but then like, oh, none of your links are going to work. It is really false advertising. And like, if you want to be an editorial site, then be an editorial site, and then you're responsible for the type of content that you actually have on your site, on your media organization. So I think as long as they act like editors, they should be treated as editorial sites.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, I think this is becoming way too. Tim Pool has a really good point about these people who think they're arbiters of truth, and they lie. They think that they don't have a liberal spin, or let's not even say liberal. They don't think they even have an ideological spin at all. They think that they are adhering to truth, right?
Yeah,
a little weird to me, because these are the same people who tell you that truth is fuzzy, truth is subjective, et cetera, et cetera. But they seem to know that there are more than two genders, definitely. And it's interesting because I know your situation doesn't have anything to do with the gender debate, but I think there's probably a similar framing that can be applied to the abortion one. And what Tim Pool says about gender is, if you think about it, conservatives and liberals both have a view on misgendering. It's just, for a conservative, if you call a trans woman she, you're misgendering him. And for a liberal, if you call a trans woman he, you're misgendering her. So for somebody like Jack Dorsey at Twitter to only crack down on one of those claims of misgendering, he clearly has like an ideological position that goes to the left and not to the right. So do you think there's any strategies or framings, or like, how do we get these companies to realize that they are not actually, their bias isn't the truth, it is conservative or liberal, or it is Democrat or Republican?
Transparency is the only answer, because like, as long as people on the outside of these companies get to know what's going on inside, get to know what people on the inside actually think and are actually doing, and what their actions are against certain ideologies, then if the tech companies don't realize, then at least people on the outside realize, and at least people on the outside can make informed decisions about using these technology companies. And then like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So like, as far as like telling Jack Dorsey you have an ideological bent, I mean, even if he doesn't know it, maybe then he'll never know it, because it's just so normalized. The culture of like censorship and beyond censorship, the ideological beliefs, like, it's just so normalized in Silicon Valley and there's such in an echo chamber, and they're so far away from like middle America and normal views, and middle of the road views, centrist views, that they may never realize it, but at least people on the outside can realize the ideological bend.
Yeah. Transparency. I feel like I'm going to ask another question and the answer is going to be transparency, but it's true. It's like, that's how you just take the power out of just Pinterest's hands or just Twitter's hands. I think Torrance asked a really good question. I know he's a developer, so it's like, he said, did politics ever come up in conversation at Pinterest, either in person, over email, or Slack? Like, was politics part of the culture there? Was it a frequent topic?
I wouldn't say it was a frequent topic just because of the department I was in. I mean, I was like I worked on the performance side of the Android app, so like a very hyper specific team, and so I wouldn't say it was frequent. And it's also because like a lot of people who are like just at my level and on like hyper specific topics like that are just kind of doing what they're told. They don't really like have opinions, but they just go along with the group mind of the tech company. So uh, and then and then of course there are a lot of people who are just afraid to say anything. So like yeah, I mean politics would come up casually, and of course it would be to the left side or to about how we need to stop misinformation. But yeah, I mean I wouldn't say it wasn't like a day-to-day there wouldn't be like day-to-day discussions on politics.
Okay, no like rampant conversations every day about feminism or how white men have all the privilege, nothing like that.
Yeah, not on my team, not on the Android performance team.
That's good. Okay, so I'll do one more question and then I'll read some of what was said here, and then I have one final question for you to wrap up. But Susan asked, do you think there's a feasible way realistically to create platforms that act like editors for sites like Facebook without them having politicians come after them? Let me see if I understand the question.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of separating like the recommendation algorithms or like the editor algorithms from the actual storage algorithms or like the storage capacities. Like people can upload, but then like how they're recommended or how they're pushed or how they're edited might come from a different company. That sounds like could work. As a business strategy, I would say it seems unlikely at the stage we're at right now. I think you're just like censorship's going to ramp up really heavily right now, and I think one possibility is like decentralized news. And of course, this can only happen if people realize that this is happening in tech companies, because the worst case scenario is that nobody wakes up, is that nobody on the free speech side of just on the American side really wakes up and realizes that the censorship is happening and realizes what's going on in big tech. That's the worst case. And yeah, the best answer is just transparency so that people at least know that we need another solution. Yeah.
Nice. No, it's true. And let's see. Casey says an idea is putting a truth in checkmate. Dialogue gives us the ability to ascertain truth through the discussion of ideas, and censoring ideas becomes a way to monopolize truth. And that's scary but true.
Yeah.
And Duffer, we already answered that question. It was asked a little differently. Duffer said, does Pinterest actually trust people's ability to make good decisions for themselves? And I think before I said, does Pinterest think people are stupid? Maybe a little bit. Or would you say yes or?
Yeah, I mean, if they trusted people, why would they need to censor like pro-life content? Why would they need to say that pro-life content is porn? Or and then now they've said that live action is misinformation and conspiracy theories. They obviously don't.
Maybe they think pro-life is like the act of making life, which is porn. No, you give them too much credit.
No comment.
Okay, so to wrap it up, I was curious. I don't know if you, and you can no comment this, but like, is there anything that you'd want to say to the Pinterest CEO? Like, what could they be doing? What do they need to do? What should they be doing better, other than transparency? Because that's the first part of the answer. But if you can go into a detail or
take a look. Don't be afraid to be different. Don't let the media companies pressure you. Like, take a look inside the company. Take a look at like what ends up being lasting. Like, are we gonna build a company that bows to media pressure and acts like every single tech company, if we just do exactly what Facebook and Google, YouTube and Twitter, if we do exactly what they are doing, are we really going to build a better platform that according to our mission statement, helps people discover and do the things that they love? I mean, how many people love babies? How many people love Bible verses? How many people love Christian Easter? And do we really want to bow to all of the media pressure in the long run after we're all gone? Was it worth it? Are we just going to be that company that was like every other company, or were we going to have a platform where, and I think that Pinterest was really in that position where like our user base was different from so many user bases. Our use cases were different from so many other social media sites. And yet here we are just going to act like everybody else, just censor like everybody else, go with the group. I think Pinterest could be different. And I think if Pinterest takes a stand, maybe other tech companies can take a stand too.
Cool. Well said, man. Well said. Well, so we're going to wrap up on that. Is there any like last thoughts or anything you wanted to say to my very small audience?
Sure. So right now, like I said, I'm living day by day. I don't know what's in the future. I do have a GoFundMe. If you go like Pinterest whistleblower GoFundMe, I'm there. But really, the biggest thing right now, my main mission, is to let other insiders know that you're not alone. That people really do have your back in the real world, and this is the critical moment. This is where it's all breaking down. And if we don't call out censorship where we see it, if insiders don't come forward, there might not be another chance. This is really where it's happening. So go to projectveritas.com/brave, and real journalists are listening to your stories.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. I know it was really short notice, but I appreciate it. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. You stay on after, and we'll do like a little debrief. But to everyone else, goodbye.